How's it going, everybody? I just wanted to make a quick video sort of detailing this particular seed starting tray that I got from Walmart. It's the one that's like 18 large pots. So I'm going to go first with pros and cons. So the pros of it are probably the same reason, those reasons are the reasons I bought it. And they're probably the things you'll notice, and that would be why you would buy it. But anyway, the pros I'm seeing are it's very affordable. It's only 588. It comes with 18 pots that are large and a watertight tray. The large cells will house seedlings all the way up until transplant time. The tray underneath is pretty sturdy. It's readily available at Walmart or a lot of different places, probably. And you can choose your growing medium. So those are good things. But now for the cons. And here are the cons, basically, that I noticed. It doesn't come with a humidity dome, which I figured I could use my own. Turns out that didn't work well. The cells are quite flimsy and they do tend to break. The cells won't sit flat in case you want to use a different humidity dome. They won't fit well on that, or the dome won't fit well on the cells because they won't sit flat. You can't remove all cells at once because of the weight. It'll just break. They'll start to fall apart. So you can't do that. One of the main things is there's too much growing media for the heating mat to penetrate. So the soil ends up being cold at the top, or at least a lot less warm than you would want. And without a snugly fitting humidity dome, it's hard to contain the heat and moisture, which is what you want to do. And that causes the growing media to dry out. Now, to fix the situation, you could place it outside on a warm day, weigh down whatever kind of plastic cover you're going to use so it doesn't blow away, monitoring it closely to make sure the growing media doesn't dry out. The sun shining down from above will much more effectively warm the top of the soil, which is where seeds basically are. They're sown shallowly, like quarter of an inch, an eighth of an inch. So that does work out better, in theory. So another option, and this would more closely fit the typical setup of starting your seeds early in the spring or late winter when it's cold, and you're starting them inside when you just can't put them outside at all, especially warm season stuff. You're starting them inside when it's just too cool out. So this other option is to buy a heating mat that has a temperature control that can be set sufficiently high and monitor the soil temperature at the surface with a laser thermometer or a standard thermometer, and then increase or decrease the temp as needed. You'll need a plastic bag or something to account for the fact that the humidity dome doesn't fit properly. So that way you've got a heat source underneath that you can raise and lower, and you've got a thermometer to know exactly whatever you're growing, you can look up on Google what's the ideal temperature for that, and then it'll say, like, I'm just going to make up numbers, 40 to 50 degrees. Well, then if you want to keep it right in the middle at 45, you can raise it and lower it. Of course, it's not a good example because it's going to be warmer than that for most things, but that's how you can remedy the situation that way: an adjustable heat mat and some sort of thermometer to check on the top of the soil temperature. And you might need, like I said, some sort of bag or cover so you get a good seal so the temperature and moisture doesn't get out, because a standard humidity dome doesn't really work very well at all. And this, I'll show you basically why a standard humidity dome won't work. This is exactly the way it came from the store. And you'll see there's a big gap in between the top of the tray and the top of the cells. So the humidity dome is supposed to sit and fit around that lip on the edge of the tray, and it ends up just sitting on top of the cells. So and they're all different heights and sizes and everything, because when they break apart, they're all uneven. So that's why you can't get a good seal at the top with a standard humidity dome from another tray that you might have saved, which is what I tried and failed to do. Now, tomatoes, for example, have an ideal temperature for a germination temperature between 70 and 80. Now, I find that just a little higher than that, like say 80 to 85, works best for me, but your mileage may vary. But once the temps get to around 95 or sometimes even less than that, that's when germination falls off. Once you get to 90, 95, whatever, you won't have good germination at all with just about any tomato variety. So just keep that in mind. Now, comparing this tray to all the other options, similar options I've used in the past, and believe me, I've used a ton of them. I would say, unfortunately, this is the worst of all the different ones I've used. I mean, I've got 17 or 18 tomato varieties planted here. Not a single one has germinated. So when I say it's the worst, I'm not just saying that, willy nilly. I find it to be the worst because, I mean, 15 days and no germination is horrible. I've never had to wait anywhere near 15 days for a tomato to germinate. You could put them in little baggies with wet paper towels and baggies, but that becomes quite the chore when you're labeling them all and using all these baggies and checking on them every day. And if you're growing a lot of different varieties at once, it does work very well. The paper towel method in a baggie works fantastically well in my experience. But when you're doing all these different varieties, it becomes, using all these paper towels, using all these baggies, labeling them all, it just becomes kind of a chore when you're doing that many. So it's up to you, though. Hey, if you want to do all that, if you don't mind doing all that extra work, go ahead. I mean, I would advise against buying it only because most people start their seeds indoors with a humidity dome on a heating mat. So with that standard setup, this tray just does not work well. And I know most people do that and start their seeds indoors, 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost or whatever. And again, for that standard setup, this tray just does not excel at all. I've never had the issue ever before that all these different tomato varieties don't sprout in 15 days. That's crazy. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, whoop-de-doo, 15 days, you spent $6 on that. But time and money are important for the gardener, especially people trying to do stuff on a budget. And you don't want to wait and waste 2 weeks when your growing season's only so long and you're doing all this planning for your garden and you've got a lot of plants. It's a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of money, effort, resources. You do all this stuff. You do not want to waste any money or any time. And it's not just the tray. I mean, I also had to buy the seed starting media, which was like $8. And again, I know $8 and $6, not that much, but now, at least from my point of view, I'm a person who I don't have a lot of time and I don't have a lot of extra money. So what I'll probably end up doing is biting the bullet and starting all my seeds in baggies, like I said, so I have more of a surefire way. Then once they germinate, transfer them to these pots just so I'm not wasting them and throwing them out and buying a whole new seed starting tray and all that. So yeah, I mean, it really does matter. And just as a side note, I've used seed starting mix and I've used the Coco Coir and I've used the peat. I think the mix actually works the best because it has a little bit of nutrition to it. So when the seedlings first start and as they go through their growing stage up to the point of transplant, they've got a little bit of nutrition to start working with rather than having to immediately start fertilizing. Peat, and I could be wrong about the peat, but I'm pretty sure I've read before that peat does not have as much nutritional value as seed starting mix. And I know Coco Coir does not. It's pretty much null and void. There's not much anything in there. So now the peat by itself does hold moisture very well. The Coco Coir does not hold it as well. But I did notice that the Coco Coir is more light and fluffy, and the roots seem to spread and form a lot quicker, kind of like explosive root growth. So they do have their pros and cons. So I would say if whatever you're starting seed-wise, if the most important thing to you is nutrition, use the seed starting mix or some sort of seed starting mix, which is in this case three or four different things mixed into one. It does have some nutrition. go that route, the seed starting mix. If you're all about nutrition, that's your main priority. If it's just water retention, if that's your main priority or the most important thing to you, peat is good. If it's really good explosive root growth and I guess you'd say a sped up growing, you want them to grow fast, coco coir. And also coco coir is more sustainable than peat. Peat is not a sustainable option. So it just depends on what's important. What is the most important to you? Um, as far as I go, probably in the future, I will go ahead and go with the coir because it's cheap, it's readily available, it's sustainable. It holds moisture good enough. You might have to re-dampen it from time to time. It also seems like it is less prone to getting any sort of mold or any diseases or pathogens in it or whatever. It seems like it's just, I don't know, just less prone to getting anything like that. I haven't had any issues with damping off and stuff like that. I don't know if it's damping off or dampening off. Anyway, up to this point, what I've chosen in the past has probably been geared toward whatever I've made that decision based on is usually, hey, this is what's right in front of me. This is what's available right now. Because I don't want to go to 20 different stores, and so it's all about convenience, or it has been with me in the past. Now, if I didn't ever have to worry about that, if it was always just like, well, anything's readily available, it doesn't matter as far as convenience or price or anything. Just based on what I know about those, I would probably say the best pick is coco coir overall. The second best pick is the seed starting mix. And the third, bringing up the rear, is peat. They'll all work great. I've had great success with all three of them. But, coco coir, the only downside I will say to that is sometimes when you take it out, if you haven't let the roots develop enough, the seed cell, what's in the growing media that's in the seed cell will start to kind of fall apart. And you do have to re-dampen it from time to time. But the reason I went with the seed starting mix on this one is just simply because if I had went with the coco or with the peat, the only thing that was available at the store that I was at the time was, the little pellets, and I would have had to have so many of those to fill up those large seed cells. It would have been ridiculous. So it was easier just to grab a bag of seed starting mix than trying to get a ton of the peat pellets or coco coir pellets. But anyway, I don't want to get too into that. I will go into the differences and pros and cons of those maybe in another video, another vehicle. Yeah, that's what it is. But for now, I do want to stay basically just on the pros and cons and everything with this particular tray versus other ones. If you guys want to hear, just let me know if you want to hear more a detailed video about the pros and cons of different growing media. I may do that based on what you guys say. But I think I've fairly well covered the main pros and cons of this particular kind of tray. It's not all bad. I'm still going to make it work just because I'm stubborn. But if I had it to do over again, I would not buy it, and I'll probably never get another one again. Because there's a difference between, hey, I'll make this work just because I already have it, and hey, would I buy this again? Because I feel like the cons just outweigh the pros. Well, that about does it for this video. I hope that I've done this video and presented it in such a way where it's not just seeming like I'm bashing this company or bashing this tray or saying, oh, this is so horrible, they're so horrible. It's not that. I just want to give people an idea of the pros and cons of this, which should not only hopefully steer them away from this particular tray, but give them an idea of what would be good and bad and what would work better with other seed starting options out there. Because if you know what makes, this one bad and good, you'll know kind of a little bit more what to look for and what to avoid with other options. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And keep an eye out for more videos. I'm going to keep putting out more videos and keep improving them. I promise there will be more and more content, and it will be better and better. That's going to happen. It's a guarantee. So anyway, thank you for sticking around with me and watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.